They had dreamed of wearing white coats together, but envy turned their shared ambition into a weapon, and one of them would pay the price. Welcome to African Timeless Tales. We're excited to have you here. Get ready for captivating stories filled with African culture, love, and life lessons. Don't forget to subscribe and join our growing family. Enjoy the tales. Clara, Joyce, Chiamaka, and Amaka became close friends after being assigned to the same hostel room in their new science class. They bonded over late night study sessions, shared meals, and dreams of excelling in school. Their friendship seemed unbreakable until a damaging rumor put them to the test. One afternoon, news spread that a student's money had gone missing. Whispers quickly turned into accusations, and soon people were saying that Clara had stolen it. To make matters worse, some students claimed that Joyce and Chamaka were the ones spreading the rumor. Shocked and hurt, Clara confronted them, her voice trembling with anger. "How could you do this to me? I thought we were friends." Joyce and Chiamaka denied it, their faces a mix of confusion and hurt. "We would never betray you," Joyce said, her voice breaking. "You know us better than that." But Clara, overwhelmed by the accusations and the weight of the rumor, couldn't bring herself to believe them. She distanced herself, leaving their once happy group fractured. Amaka, the level-headed one, refused to believe her friends would turn against each other. Determined to uncover the truth, she started asking around. After careful digging, she discovered that a group of jealous students had overheard Joyce and Chiamaka discussing how Clara needed money for a practical. Twisting their words, they spread the false rumor to ruin their friendship. With the truth revealed, Amaka gathered everyone together. "We've been played," she said, her voice steady but firm. "Someone wanted to tear us apart, and we almost let them." Clara's eyes filled with tears as she realized her mistake. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have trusted you." Joyce and Chiamaka hugged her, their own tears flowing. "We forgive you," Chiamaka said, "but let's promise to never let anyone come between us again." The four friends emerged from the ordeal stronger than before. Their bond deepened by the lesson they had learned. Real friendship stands firm, even in the face of rumors and lies. The stolen money incident became a defining moment in their friendship. It taught them the importance of trust, communication, and standing by each other no matter what. They vowed never to let outsiders or misunderstandings divide them again. On the last year in secondary school, their school was invited to a prestigious national science camp where students from across the country would compete in various categories. The girls were thrilled and immediately signed up as a team. They spent weeks preparing, staying late after school to practice experiments, debate theories, and quiz each other. At the camp, the competition was fierce. The girls faced off against some of the brightest students in the country, but their teamwork and determination set them apart. When the results were announced, the girls couldn't believe it. They had all won in their respective categories with gold medal. That night, they celebrated under the stars at the camp, laughing, dancing, and promising to always support each other, no matter what. The science camp became another defining moment in their friendship, but more importantly, the experience deepened their bond. They knew they were stronger together. The four friends shared a dream to study medicine together and wear the white coats of doctors one day. Their bond was built on years of laughter, shared secrets, and unwavering support, making their dream feel almost sacred. They prepared together for the university entrance examination. When the university admission list came out, their dream took an unexpected turn. Amaka was the only one accepted into the medicine program. Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce were admitted into related fields: biochemistry, anatomy, and physiology. At first, they tried to hide their disappointment, but it lingered beneath the surface, a quiet ache they couldn't ignore. Amaka reassured them during their first reunion. "Don't worry," she said with a confident smile. "If you work hard and get good grades, you can switch to medicine by second year. We'll still achieve our dream together." Her words sparked hope in the others, and with renewed determination, they all decided to go to school. At first, things were great. They attended classes together, studied in the library, and even had group discussions. Amaka encouraged them to stay focused, often saying, "Our second year plan depends on how we do now." But as the weeks passed, the pressure began to mount. The medicine program was grueling, and while Amaka thrived, her friends found themselves struggling to keep up. The gap between them widened, and with it, a sense of inadequacy began to creep into their hearts. Things started to change. After their first semester, results were released. Amaka excelled, topping her class with straight A's. Her friends, however, were left behind with poor grades, already certain that they could not switch courses to medicine. Clara stared at her results, her hands trembling. "How does she make it look so easy?" she muttered under her breath, her voice tinged with bitterness. At first, they felt embarrassed. After seeing their grades, they decided to study with Amaka again, just as they used to. But despite their efforts, the gap between them only seemed to widen, and the frustration grew. Then came the resentment. They started whispering among themselves, blaming Amaka for making everything seem so easy while they struggled. "She doesn't even realize how hard this is for us," Chiamaka said one evening, her voice sharp with envy. "She's too busy being perfect." One night, Clara voiced what they were all thinking. "If we can't switch into medicine next year because of our grades, what's the point? We should just leave this school." Chiamaka's eyes lit up. "Exactly. There are better schools where we can start fresh. Some even offer direct admission into medicine. Let's just transfer." Joyce hesitated. "But won't that be expensive? We barely managed to pay this year's tuition here." Clara waved her off. "We'll figure it out. For now, let's enjoy ourselves. We can always start over next semester." So while Amaka spent her nights buried in textbooks, her friends began to drift away. Late night hangouts and clubbing replaced their study sessions. The freedom of campus life was intoxicating, and for a while, it helped them forget their failures. But deep down, the guilt gnawed at them, especially Joyce, who often found herself staring at Amaka's empty chair during study sessions, wondering if they were making a mistake. One Friday evening, Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce convinced Amaka to take a break and join them for a party. "You can't study all the time," Clara teased. "You'll turn into a robot." Reluctantly, Amaka agreed, but said she would return early. She dressed fancy with a scarf given to her by her mother around her neck. She takes the scarf as not only a sign of love, but of protection from her mother. The party was in full swing when they arrived, the air thick with music and laughter. Amaka stuck to the sidelines, sipping a soda and watching her friends lose themselves in the crowd. She was about to leave when a commotion broke out near the entrance. Two guys were arguing, their voices rising over the music. Before anyone could intervene, the argument escalated into a fight. One of the guys, a tall, broad-shouldered guy, was shoved into a table, and a broken bottle sliced his arm. Blood gushed from the wound, and the crowd scattered, leaving him slumped against the wall. Amaka's instincts kicked in. She rushed over, ignoring the chaos around her, and used her scarf to apply pressure to the wound. You need to go to the hospital, she said firmly. This cut is deep. I'm fine, he muttered, trying to stand. You're not fine, Amaka snapped. If you don't get stitches, you could lose function in your arm. Now, are you going to let me help you, or are you going to be stubborn? Sam hesitated, then nodded. With Amaka's help, he made it to the hospital, where she stayed until he was treated. Before she left, he stopped her. Why'd you help me? He asked, his voice low. Because it was the right thing to do, and because I'm training to be a doctor. I can't just ignore someone who's hurt. Sam studied her for a moment, then nodded. Thanks, I owe you one. Yes, you owe me my favorite scarf. After that night, Sam and Amaka developed an unlikely friendship. They didn't hang out often, but they'd exchange brief greetings on campus, and sometimes, when their paths crossed, Ime calls her my scarf girl. They'd talk for a few minutes. Sam was one of the bad guys on campus, known for his involvement in shady activities, but Amaka never judged him. She figured everyone had a story, and it wasn't her place to pry. What Amaka didn't know was that Sam had taken a liking to her. She was different from the people he usually associated with, driven, principled, and kind without expecting anything in return. Meanwhile, Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce planned to transfer to another school was shattered when the truth hit them. After weeks of partying and ignoring their studies, Chiamaka received a call from home. Her father, struggling to pay off mounting debts, bluntly told her they couldn't afford to send her to another university. A similar conversation played out for Clara and Joyce. Their families had stretched their finances thin just to send them to their current school. Transferring to another institution was out of the question. We're stuck here, Clara said, her voice hollow. There's no way out. They were trapped in their current programs with no immediate way out. As reality sank in, their jealousy toward Amaka deepened. She has everything handed to her, Clara hissed one evening. She doesn't have to worry about money or her future. Why does she get all the luck? She's living the life we should have, Chiamaka added bitterly. We should have been the ones studying medicine, Joyce muttered, though guilt flickered in her voice. Their jealousy grew each time Amaka shared her accomplishments. I don't even study that hard, she said innocently one day, not realizing how her words stung. Her success, once a source of inspiration, became a bitter reminder of their failures. By the second semester, their envy curdled into something darker. Sabotage became their weapon of choice. Amaka began waking up late for lectures, only to discover someone had been turning off her alarm. She quickly adapted, sleeping with her phone under her pillow and setting a backup alarm on a small travel clock. When her roommates complained about the incessant ringing, she calmly said, "You can't be more annoyed than me missing class." Her notes vanished mysteriously, once turning up in a bin behind the hostel. Without a word, Amaka started making copies, locking the originals in a drawer, and saving digital backups on her phone. Then came the incidents with her belongings. One morning, she woke up to find her favorite pair of shoes missing just as she was about to leave for a lab session. Another time, her neatly ironed uniform was stained with oil. Refusing to let these petty acts deter her, Amaka started locking her wardrobe and keeping an emergency outfit ready in her bag. Their next ploy involved her food. After several incidents of feeling nauseous and lightheaded, Amaka stopped using the communal fridge entirely, cooking fresh meals daily to avoid tampering. When Joyce asked, "Why are you eating so little all of a sudden?" Amaka simply smiled and replied, "I'm watching my weight. Doctors need to set an example." The most elaborate trap came on the eve of an important test. Chiamaka and Clara insisted on going to a party, claiming it would help them unwind. Amaka reluctantly agreed but grew suspicious. At the last minute, she pretended to forget her ID card and urged them to go ahead. Instead of returning to the hostel, she went to the library and studied until midnight. The next morning, she breezed into the exam hall, refreshed, while her hungover roommates struggled to stay awake. Their jealousy festered with each passing day. Amaka tried to encourage them, saying, "There is still time, stay focused, and you'll improve this semester." But to Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce, her words felt like mockery. Still, they decided to give it one last try. They rejoined the study group, determined to catch up, but their struggles were overwhelming beneath their forced smiles. However, despite their efforts, the gap was too wide, and they struggled to keep pace. The dynamic had changed, and their confidence wavered as they realized they couldn't bridge the distance. One evening, Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce confided in Amaka about their failed plans to transfer schools. "We're stuck here," Clara said, her voice hollow. "Our families can't afford it." Amaka, ever optimistic, tried to encourage them. "Don't worry, you can still make it work here. Just study harder. I believe in you all." Her words, though well-meaning, felt dismissive to her friends. They couldn't ignore how effortlessly she excelled while they struggled. That evening, Amaka called her parents and explained her friend's financial situation. Her parents offered to help, and during their next study session, Amaka shared the news. "I spoke to my parents," she said, "and they might be able to cover some costs if you promise to pay them back later." Her generosity, however, only deepened their resentment. They felt humiliated, her offer a stark reminder of their financial inadequacies and her privileged position. Instead of gratitude, bitterness grew. From that moment, their friendship shifted again. Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce began to see Amaka not as a friend, but as a rival, a symbol of everything they couldn't achieve. Her success, once a source of inspiration, now felt like a taunt, and her kindness only fueled their envy. When subtle tactics failed, they turned malicious. The night before a major test, they turned off her alarm, hoping she'd oversleep, but Amaka's habit of waking early saved her. She made it to the exam hall on time, acing the test, while her roommates seethed in silence. As their frustration festered, they devised a desperate and dangerous plan. If they couldn't transfer schools, they would find another way to make money, and Amaka became the target. "She's so focused on her studies, she doesn't even notice what's going on around her," Chiamaka said. "We can make this work." "We'll kidnap her," Clara declared. "Her family will pay the ransom, and we can use the money to transfer to another school." Joyce froze. "Kidnap Amaka? Are you serious?" "Do you have a better idea?" Clara snapped. "We're stuck here unless we do something drastic." Reluctantly, Joyce went along with the plan, afraid to stand up to her friends. But as the plan took shape, Joyce's guilt grew unbearable. She lay awake at night, haunted by the thought of betraying someone who had always been kind to her. Yet the fear of losing her friend's approval kept her silent. The tipping point came as the semester drew to a close. Amaka's last exam was just days away, and she had been preparing tirelessly. Her focus made her roommates feel even more inadequate, and in their frustration, they concocted a desperate plan. They would kidnap Amaka on the morning of her final exam. She'll miss the exam and fail, Clara said, her voice trembling with anger. Then we'll all be on the same level, Chiamaka added. Joyce hesitated, but didn't voice her doubts, fearing the others might turn on her too. They started asking around for help to execute their plan, approaching some notorious students on campus. They approached Sam, thought he was just another campus thug who'd do anything for money. We need your help, Clara said, her eyes darting around nervously. There's someone we need taken care of, just for a few days. We'll make it worth your while. Sam leaned back, his expression unreadable. Who's the target? Amaka, Chiamaka blurted out. She's always been the golden girl, and we're tired of living in her shadow. If she disappears for a while, maybe we can finally catch a break. Joyce stayed silent, her guilt written all over her face, but she didn't object. Sam's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice calm. As he says, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. As soon as they left, Sam went straight to Amaka. We need to talk, he said, his tone urgent. Amaka looked up, surprised. Sam, what's wrong? He told her everything about the plan, the money, and the betrayal. Amaka listened in stunned silence, her heart sinking with each word. When he finished, she took a deep breath, her mind racing. Thank you for telling me, she said quietly. I don't know what to say. Shocked and heartbroken, Amaka couldn't believe her own friends would stoop so low. She sat in silence for a moment, her mind racing. Why? She whispered, more to herself than to the dean. What did I do to deserve this? Amaka reported the plot to the school authorities and an investigation was launched. Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce were called in for questioning, and when they realized Sam had betrayed them, they panicked. They denied everything, but the evidence was damning. Faced with expulsion and possible criminal charges, they packed their bags and fled the university in the dead of night. Amaka stood at the window of her hostel room, watching their retreating figures. She felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. The betrayal had cut deep, but she knew she'd done the right thing. Sam couldn't shake the guilt of how close she had come to danger. He started keeping a discreet eye on her, making sure she was safe without her knowing. Over time, his protective instincts turned into genuine admiration for her resilience and dedication. Amaka's unwavering focus on her studies and her kindness, despite the betrayal, inspired him in ways he hadn't expected. Sam began to reflect on his own life. He realized that if someone like Amaka could rise above adversity, he could too. Slowly, he started taking his studies seriously. He stopped skipping classes, cut ties with the shady crowd he used to run with, and began spending more time in the library. Amaka noticed the change but didn't pry, respecting his privacy. Instead, she encouraged him subtly, lending him books and sharing study tips when they crossed paths on campus. By the time Amaka was in her final year, Sam had already graduated. He had turned his life around completely, earning a degree in business administration. Though they didn't stay in close contact after his graduation, Sam often thought about Amaka and the impact she had on him. He knew he owed her more than just gratitude. She had shown him a better version of himself. Amaka graduated with top honors, fulfilling her dream of becoming a doctor. She had put the betrayal behind her, focusing instead on building a bright future. Joyce, on the other hand, the most conflicted of the three, struggled with guilt and shame. She moved to a nearby town and took up odd jobs to survive. She worked as a waitress at a small cafe a cleaner at a hair salon, and even as a street sweeper for the local government. Despite the hardships, she held on to a glimmer of hope. Joyce had always loved art, and she began saving every penny she earned to enroll in an art school. She spent her free time sketching and painting, using art as an escape from her regrets. Though her progress was slow, she remained determined to turn her life around and pursue her passion. Chiamaka's life spiraled out of control. Unable to face her family or start over, she fell in with a bad crowd in the city. Desperate for money and a sense of purpose, she turned to petty crime. She started with shoplifting, stealing clothes and cosmetics from local markets. But it didn't take long for her to escalate to more serious offenses. She became involved in a scam ring, defrauding people through fake online businesses. Eventually, she was arrested for her role in a major fraud operation and spent months in jail. Her potential was wasted, and she became a cautionary tale of how envy and poor choices can destroy a life. Clara returned to her village, her pride shattered and her dreams in ruins. She tried to rebuild her life but found herself trapped in a cycle of menial jobs. She worked as a cleaner at a local primary school, a roadside hawker selling roasted plantains, and occasionally as a farmhand during the planting season. The work was hard and paid little, but it was all she could find. Over time, her bitterness grew. She blamed Amaka for her misfortune, refusing to take responsibility for her own choices. Her once bright ambition turned into resentment, and she spent her days lamenting what could have been. One day, while walking through a hospital lobby, she saw Joyce sitting on a bench. The years had not been kind to her. She looked frail, a shadow of her former self. When their eyes met, Joyce hesitated before approaching. "Amaka, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was just scared and didn't know how to stop them." Amaka's expression was unreadable. "You went along with the plan. If it had worked, I might have been hurt, or worse. Who would you be apologizing to then? My corpse?" Tears streamed down Joyce's face. "I was weak. I didn't have the courage to speak up. Please, forgive me." Amaka sighed. "I forgive you, but I can't forget, and I can't have people like you in my life anymore. If the plan had succeeded and I lost my life, who would you be apologizing to?" As Joyce broke down, Amaka walked away, leaving her former friend to reflect on the weight of her choices. But as she walked, Amaka felt a pang of sadness. She had achieved her dream, but the cost had been high. The betrayal had taught her to guard her heart, but it had also left a scar, a reminder that even the strongest bonds could be broken by envy and fear. One evening, after a long shift at the hospital, Amaka went to the supermarket for groceries when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Scarf girl!" She turned, and there he was, Sam, holding a basket filled with kitchen essentials. He looked different, more polished, but his warm smile was the same. Sam just moved to the city because of his new job and was setting up his new apartment. Still saving lives, I see. They stood there for a moment, the past flooding back, the party, the betrayal, the way he'd looked out for her. Amaka broke the silence. "It's good to see you, really good." Sam invited her over for coffee. They exchanged warm smiles, and for the first time in years, they sat down to talk. Over coffee, their conversation flowed effortlessly, as if no time had passed. Sam told her about his journey, how her influence had changed his life, and how he had built a successful career in business. Amaka, in turn, shared her experiences as a doctor and the challenges she had overcome. They laughed, reminisced, and realized how much they had missed each other's presence. Over the following months, their friendship deepened. They started meeting regularly, and it didn't take long for their bond to evolve into something more. Sam's protective nature and Amaka's compassionate heart complemented each other perfectly. What began as an unlikely friendship blossomed into a beautiful romantic relationship. Together, they built a life rooted in mutual respect, trust, and shared dreams. Amaka often joked that Sam was her scarf boy, a playful nod to how they had met. Her, in turn, called her his guiding light, the person who had helped him find his way when he was lost. Their love story became a testament to the power of second chances and the unexpected ways people can change each other's lives. Joyce never fully recovered from the guilt. She drifted from one low paying job to another, her spirit broken. She often thought of reaching out to Amaka again, but could never muster the courage. Her apology in the hospital lobby was the closest she ever came to redemption, but it wasn't enough to change her life. Years later, the three crossed paths at Amaka and Sam's wedding, arrived separately, each lingering at the back of the crowd, unsure of whether they should even be there. It wasn't long before they spotted each other. The years had changed them. Clara's face was lined with bitterness, Chiamaka's with weariness, and Joyce's with quiet determination. But the recognition was instant. They stood together in silence for a moment, watching as Amaka and Sam exchanged vows, eyes fixed on Amaka, who was now dancing with Sam, her laughter ringing out across the room. "She's moved on. Maybe it's time we did too." Finally, Clara spoke, her voice low and heavy with regret. "She looks happy. She deserves it." Chiamaka crossed her arms, her tone sharp but tinged with sadness. "Yeah, she got everything we wanted. Medicine, success, love, and we're here, still stuck in the mess we made." Joyce, clutching a small sketch pad she had brought with her, sighed. "We did this to ourselves. We let envy and fear ruin everything. But I'm trying to move on. I'm finally going to art school next month." Clara and Chiamaka turned to her, surprised. "Art school?" Clara asked, her voice softening. "That's good. At least one of us is doing something with our lives." Chiamaka looked away, her expression conflicted. "I wish I could say the same. I've been in and out of trouble since we left school. I don't even know how to start over." As the ceremony ended, the three women found themselves sitting together at a quiet corner. The weight of their shared past hung heavily in the air. "Do you think she'd ever forgive us?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Joyce shook her head. "I don't know, but I don't think we came here for her forgiveness. I think we came here to face what we did, to remind ourselves of the cost of our choices." As the night wore on, the three women began to open up to each other in a way they hadn't in years. They talked about their struggles, their regrets, and their hopes for the future. For the first time in a long time, they felt a sense of connection, not as the friends they once were, but as people who had shared a painful lesson. Before they left, Joyce handed Clara and Chiamaka small sketches she had made during the wedding. "I drew these for you," she said. "Maybe they'll remind us that it's never too late to start over." Clara and Chiamaka looked at the sketches, simple but beautiful depictions of the three of them as they had been in their happier days. For a moment, the weight of their regrets felt a little lighter. As they walked away, each of them knew that this chapter of their lives was finally closing. Amaka had found her happiness, and now it was time for them to find theirs, whether through forgiveness, redemption, or simply moving forward. The wedding had been a painful reminder of their mistakes, but it had also been a wake up call. For Clara, Chiamaka, and Joyce, the road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, they felt a glimmer of hope. Amaka and Sam proved that even in the face of betrayal and hardship, new beginnings are always possible, and sometimes they lead to the most beautiful endings. Amaka's journey taught her the importance of resilience and surrounding herself with people who genuinely celebrated her success. The betrayal had left scars, but it also strengthened her resolve to never let envy and bitterness define her relationships. While your resilience and strength can be a source of encouragement for some, it may spark envy and ultimately lead to others' downfall. Thank you for watching and for being a part of African Timeless Tales. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more captivating stories. And to our returning viewers, we appreciate you for always coming back. Stay tuned for more tales filled with lessons, twists, and culture.